Howdy mates, good afternoon, how are we all doing? Here's a part 2 video located still at the Oscar Scherer State Park. Right now I'm actually right by a known feature called the Hidden Lake. I mean, in a sense it's a bit more like a pond, but that's just the name of it according to the state park. But these ponds are actually absolutely necessary for, natural parks like these, because this is where you'll find more varieties of your wading birds and even your biodiversity of plants. So for instance, where I am right now, you see like the transition between water and where I'm standing. This is actually something called a littoral zone. The littoral zone is actually broken up into 3 separate parts. So we're gonna start in the order of coming from the water. So for instance, we have submergent plants, right? That are usually along a body of water. A great example of submergent plants can be bladderworts. And what's neat about bladderworts is that they are actually considered to be a carnivorous plant. Because oftentimes what they do is they'll feed on any larvae that can be found in the water, such as that from mosquitoes, for instance, right? So then, as we make our way closer to the water, or to land, we have something called water floating plants. So I think in this instance, I'm not really seeing that many water floating plants. I mean, it just really depends on where it is you're standing. But sometimes if you're lucky enough, you may even find varieties of water lilies. So they are basically seen, like with a water floating plant, you're only seeing the tip of the plant, whereas most of its roots are established underwater. Oh, you hear a little limpkin in the background. So that's the sound of a limpkin. That is a native wading bird in Florida. And like I said, they can be rather noisy. But going back on the subject of littoral zone, so mentioned about water floating plants. So now basically where I'm standing right now, we're having the emergence layer of plants. So that means they're above the water, and usually they're established on land. So usually a lot of our emergent plants include the grasses. So for instance, we have the molly grass, or we even have some kogon grass, I think. Kind of difficult to tell from this distance. Then of course we even have some of our scrub oaks as well. There it is. You can see it flying in the distance, the limpkin. But these littoral zones are absolutely necessary, especially among these types of habitats. You may be wondering, why is that the case? Well, think of it this way. Say we have like a rainstorm that's happening, especially during the wet season. And unfortunately, Florida has a very high use of utilizing fertilizers, pesticides, you name it, that can contain nitrogen and phosphorus. Now, what this littoral zone can do is essentially it can act as like a buffer for the pond. So think of them as something like the mangroves of a pond, even though it's nothing close to mangroves. But oftentimes, a lot of these plants will absorb those nutrients. And that way, by the time it does get to the water, it's very minimal. Because if none of this were here, all those nutrients would make their way into the water, and then it would promote the production of, say, cyanobacteria, for example. And it would make the water look rather nasty, unappealing, stinky, and it would also threaten any of the wildlife that relies on this habitat. So that's why we need littoral zones. Not only that, they can also even act as a nursery too, whether it be, for amphibians, reptiles, birds, mammals even. This essentially can act as an excellent cover from any other threats. So that's why having littoral zones are absolutely crucial. That's why we need them. So, great example too. If any of you ever want to learn more about littoral zones and how they work, there is a place up in Sarasota that's called the Red Bug Slough Preserve. And they actually provide some excellent interpretive signs that really help you understand why we need them. And it also provides an excellent illustration too of how each part of a littoral zone breaks down. So alrighty. Hope you enjoyed that little video snippet, and hope all of you enjoy your Sunday. And once again, Journey on a Journey is outwards. Take care, folks. See ya.